Thank you, everybody, for coming and joining our virtual plein air event this morning and on Saturday, June 13th. My name is Steve Puttrich. I'm a plein air artist in both oil and watercolor, and I do have a few opportunities to share with everyone as far as workshops. I'm hosting 2-day workshops in June, July, August, and September. The June and July workshops are going to be at the Morton Arboretum, and we'll have plenty of space to paint out, and as well as at the Botanic Gardens on August and September. So there are two-day workshops. 2-day workshops on the weekends, Saturday and Sundays, and all that information can be found on my website. It's $200 for the 2 days, so pretty easy to sign up. But let's get into the today's event. I really wanted to challenge you, everybody, to really, with the 15-minute exercises, the 4 15-minute paintings, I really wanted to focus in on the compositions of those paintings. And I created this little graphic using Edgar Payne's composition types. And go ahead and photograph this if you want. I'll leave this up on the screen for a while. And I'll also send this out as a JPEG to Mary so we can have this. But this is a good page to really kind of have with you, even if you're out in the field hunting for a composition to paint, looking for a subject to paint. You're kind of confused at all the information coming at you at once. But these 17 composition types are really it's a strong tool to have as you make decisions on what to paint, or why to paint it, or how to paint it. If a subject is not presenting itself clearly, this is where you as the artist need to come in and say, okay, if I eliminate this object or shape, can I achieve a stronger composition, targeting one of these composition types, and or move an object and still maintain that. But it's all, today's talk is going to be focusing in on these 17 composition types. What I did was I took one of these types. I took the steel yard here, which is kind of like a teeter-totter, but one object is bigger and another object is smaller. And I just did a quick sketch of a landscape. We've got background sky, middle ground of distant trees, and a foreground of close-up trees. And I did a kind of a quick outline of a steel yard composition with the big mass as one side and then a smaller tree on the other side. And you could actually do a quick sketch, and Edgar Payne has done those. Here's a few samples down in here of little sketches illustrating that composition type. But I took the steel yard just as today's example. And then I colored in light, medium, and dark values, showing those, the 6 different options, choices that we have as far as lights, middles, darks, operating in that background, middle ground, foreground space. And so with the 17 composition types and the 6 different values that we can choose. We have about 102 variables that we can choose from. So getting this kind of under your belt is a really good launching point for today's critique. And so let's go in, and I'm going to share the Facebook page. I think we'll start with Virginia's paintings. She was the first one to post. All right, Virginia. I think this is her final painting. But let's look at her 4 different studies in this. I think it's following more of either a scattered mass composition type. But I love this one as far as the cool and the warms. You're clearly separating that. This is also, the scene itself is here. You could do a scattered mass or a pattern, various patterns within your composition. This is also, you could also choose kind of an L shape or even a C shape composition. Here's a quick sketch, and I like how you just try different things in each of these 4 areas, in each of these 4 squares. So my comment is on this one itself is I would have cooled this off even more and just really hit hard on the warmth of this area. And then when you have all these little dots of patterns, find the shapes within those dots. And it's okay to have a few coming off, but when you have this equal clustering going on, it becomes kind of scattered. It's look for the big shapes in here and the big shapes in here, and unify those same shapes into a mass, and then have the single element coming out. It's going to look solid and a little more pleasing composition.
Thanks.
Right.
It's really helpful. And do you think, should I have like some sky holes to the building behind that? Because that's such a huge, thick rose bush. Should I try to break it up? And
yeah, let's see. I think you did well. I think the major thing is getting these clusters into more continents and islands of shapes. And then when you find yourself ... you know, kind of mindless repetition of brushwork, when you find yourself doing that, just pause for a second and ask yourself, am I making a clear shape, or am I just mindlessly busy and just putting paint down without really intentional shape making? Because I get caught into that just like everybody else, and you know, you see it and you want to replicate that, but you know, catch yourself in from doing that.
thank you. That's so helpful.
Good. Kuhn.
Yes.
Great effort here, Kuhn. Let's go to the 4. I think there's in here. Oh, maybe I missed it. Well, you've got sketches here. I'm going to cover these 4 pretty quickly. But this is following that composition. It's kind of equal. It's almost too equal. The water and the buildings, This is an element over here that's kind of a nice framing element, but I wouldn't necessarily do this one. Either give more space to the building or to the water, or one of the two. I think that evenness is it's boring. So this one is a little better composition. You've got a nice S shape in here that kind of creates that nice pleasing flow into the painting itself. You've got some very subtle diagonal lines in here as well. A little too hot on the background back here, but overall it's a really nice little painting. And to know these are done in 15 minutes is a good effort. This is a nice L shape. It's a backward L, but it's a nice L-shaped composition. Good effort on that one too. I like the detail. Again, it's an overall cool painting. Watch the hotness of these two buildings and that bridge. If it's farther away, if this building is farther away, make sure you cool that off. Put warmth into this boat. Good. And this one here, this is another L-shaped composition. You've got an element over here, and then the weight of the painting is down in here. I love it. This is a really good composition. The weight between the sky and this is it's almost like a yin and yang balanced approach. So really good one on this one, I think.
Thank you.
Bonnie, I love this subject here.
Thank you.
This is showing a multiple composition types. So let's talk about this one. This is let's go back to the photo. You've got a super strong diagonal. You also have a tunnel composition here, kind of offset. Group mass is also a composition type that you have as well in here. So you're choosing that subject matter, you're setting yourself up for success. I like this W for a win. So this is a winning composition. The weight is off to 1/3, 2/3, so it's well weighted. Let's look at the painting itself. Good quick sketch. I don't have anything to really say offhand on this. You nailed it as far as seeing the value of a good composition, and that attracted you to it, and you painted it. So cool versus warm, I love it. Good spaces for darks, balance of darks and lights and midtones. So well done. Watch this one. It's I love how you just unified the sameness of these shadows, but just be aware of where your eye is going. My eye is going to this contrast between the brightness and the dark, and that hard edge right there. I want something up in here, but my eye keeps going down in here. So just be aware of that. And that's the reference photo for that one. Oh, here's Kuhn's 4 paintings. Okay, those are mine. Let's just briefly talk about my approach to this one. These are 4 separate paintings, little 5x7s, 8x10s that I did in the workshop. I went vertically on this one. I like the L composition here, that this dark tree and the shadow is showing. I hit the light, middle ground, and foreground, light, medium, and dark. And if you go back to this, I'm following this background, middle ground, foreground, light, medium, and dark approach. I wanted to try something different, and my second attempt was a horizontal. So I did a light, medium, and dark. And these took literally a minute to do. You're just slapping on the paint and just trying different things. I'll use a little squeegee to scratch off some paint off in here for adding some sky holes in the trees. But literally a minute, these only take about a minute to create. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this. I liked this one better than this one. So I started a third panel. Again, horizontal, but I wanted to incorporate the reflection of the sky on the water as an element shape. And I like that one even better. So, and then a fourth element just included color notes of cool to warm, and then some hard edges for the umbrella, as well as some reflections of blue into the window. Again, real quick painting, studies of composition types. Let's go into Nancy. Nancy's got, now, if you really want to study this composition types, look at Nancy's paintings. They are spectacular. Here's a good example of a C composition. C or L's are, you could also, do an L composition, but by incorporating this dark space up in here, she's connected this mass into a really nice C shape. She's given us a hard edge. The warmth on this is in this figure down in here. You can see this is the center of interest, and there's no doubt in that. It's a super simple painting following that C composition. This is that almost like a scattered masses or a pattern. This is kind of a yin and yang approach to it. The water is coming up in here, and then the green masses are coming down into the water. Real simple composition. Again, clearly the warmth and the cool, well balanced, and then strong center of interest. This is a beautiful painting. This is a great example of either an O, circular composition, or tunneling. You've got a big mass of trees, and then it just becomes so inviting as far as the bigger shapes are supporting of the sky and the ground is supporting this tree mass. He's given us just enough information back in here to keep our attention right in the center. And the square orientation is ideal for this shape, this approach. Great job. Just watch the brightness of these sky holes, and the equal size of these would be my only comment on this. Otherwise, great job, Nancy. Oh, and this one. This is a beautiful little piece. Mostly warm, and then she's bringing in some cool elements of purples, and then within the shadows. The shadows are warm as well, but overall composition, it's just either an L or a C composition. Patterns, it could be a pattern composition as well. So just keep your eye on those. And then a strong center of interest right down in here. High contrast between the dark cool and the warm light of that shadow. Good job. Mariel. These are her 4 paintings here. I'm not going to comment on every one, but look at this U-shaped composition. Out of the 4, this one's the strongest. I love how you have the light coming in here, and it's just strongly supported by that U. These are weaker in that I'm not really looking, my eye is not really falling on a certain area of the painting. So when you're doing this, be mindful of where your eyes are falling. If they're not falling on a specific area, you know, bring some hotness, even hotter or sharper edges to a certain area, and you know, quickly solve that issue, center of interest. Overall, I like this one. My eye keeps going to this one, to the high contrast. Sandra, I love this description of this exercise this week. Exercise from hell. But I love the feel of these 4 elements. You're in a sketch mode. You're there just capturing the moment. They're full of life and emotion. So great job. Look at this composition of kind of a tunneling approach to a composition. Out of the 4, I think this one's the strongest. This one's kind of given us an S-shape composition. Here, my attention is scattered between this and this. This one, I'm trying to go up into this area, but then I'm coming back down. So but ultimately my eye is falling in on this area right in here between the hard contrast between the shadow of the roof and that. Good job, Sandra. Melina, nice strong diagonal in here. Good 1/3, 2/3. My eye is falling onto this because of the higher contrast between the light and dark, warm, cooler shapes and colors. This is well painted up in here. Ask yourself, Elena, if this diagonal is really needed to tell the story of this horizontal, rather, of line.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Pardon me?
Thank you. That's helpful. I can do it.
Yeah, I think it's taking too much away from the strong diagonal that you have in here. You could soften that up and or just incorporate some of this cooler elements down in here just to break that separation up, because the whole story is this diagonal.
Okay.
Well done. This one is not as strong, but it's given us a nice tunneling composition.
Thank you.
Good leading lines. This is kind of undeveloped yet. This is getting better over here. This is kind of a scattered patterns, but good start on this one. Really good start. It's almost like a nautilus or a spiral. So, you know, if you're going to continue this one, bring an element which you have down in here, and then give us an area of rest where we could just, you know, focus in on this statue, perhaps right in here. Good composition. Richard, I love these little sketches of dinosaurs. It looks good color palette and value study. This one, look at this composition. Here's your O composition or tunneling. He's given us a nice dark shape. You could maybe cool this off even more, just to get a little more dramatic lighting in here. And I think this one is the strongest of the four. Good C-shaped composition in here. This one is also a tunneling. This one is a reverse C composition. So, Richard, you're clearly aware of that composition type. But take that 17 compositions and you know choose one and or a variety of them. But good start on all four of these. Lynette, good reference photos here, Lynette.
Thanks, Steve.
This is a kind of the scene itself is very pastoral. It's certainly a farm. There's nice, calm lines to this. Anytime you get a nice horizontal line, it brings that the emotions down. It calms the spirit when you're seeing these long horizontal lines. That's the Savannah principle in action in design. So, and then you've interrupted that, but good shapes, good kind of an S type shape in here. Good start of this one. Nice, cool, coming down the warms. More quick studies. This is a gorgeous painting here. In that, look at the coolness you have in the background and the warmth. Very soft, subtle diagonals. It's given us a little more energy. When you have a strong diagonal, that gives us a lot of emotion as far as growth. Up and to the right is, you know, always signals growth or movement. So you have a gentle growth pattern in here, but really good. You know, it could be a C composition as well as diagonal. So great start on this one.
Thank you.
And then I think you gave us a nice U-shaped composition right in here, looking through this this window. This could also be an O or a tunnel, but you decided to zoom in on it and give us that U-shaped composition. This is another nice good one. Look at the coolness of these back trees. I would even simplify this even more.
Okay.
Just to push that back. The active brushwork is kind of pulling us forward. Certainly the dark in there. And then you gave us a nice calm area to really rest on. And here's your U-shaped composition, or the O. Good job on that.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry. These are our pastels. So good mark making on these ones, Jerry. The 15-minute quick examples, I think this one and this one are your stronger pieces. Look at the L shape here. This one is kind of an O or a tunnel, similar to this one. You know, this is more of a study of a bird's nest. Give us a little more warmth in the center and then cool it off as you go. Maybe would be a good suggestion for this one. It keeps us in there. But look at how that O composition kind of keeps us in that painting. Up here, I would bring in a little more light. Just a subtle light. You got one right there, and maybe up in here. But maybe a little more light over in here, and certainly back in the horizon. Good job, effort. Good job, effort on this one, Jerry. Vida.
Morning.
Hi. Again, look at the C, reverse C composition on this one. Diagonal on this one. This one is L here. This one is kind of either a scatter pattern or diagonals. You've got strong diagonals that aren't leading up to anything up in here. So I would say either this one or this one are your stronger compositions, and this one is probably the strongest one. But it's, you know, I'm trying to point out the fact that those composition types, when I first showed you, are going to be leading that or dictating the stronger composition is going to be the better painting. And if you follow those 17 composition types, and again, I'll post this up there, it's going to be a much better painting. And if you can find that composition type before painting it, and then just quickly sketch those in, just to nail it, your painting is going to just really rock.
Thank you.
On this one here, let's talk about this one. If you have a strong element outside the L, you're going to draw our attention outside that L. So I would bring in this house over to here and just keep us focused in on this area. Other than that, these are really good. Patricia. Again, look at the U shape or O right on this one. Out of these four, this one's the strongest piece, and this one's a good one as well. These are more or less value studies using a limited palette, but I like the variety of choices, you know, that you try. But out of the four, this one is your stronger piece.
Great, that was the last one.
Okay, because it's following that simple U-shaped composition, or O. You know, it's keeping us in there. So give us something to look at. I love the little warmth that you added in there. Watch bringing in this warmth. I would bring in something even warmer over here.
Okay.
Just to finish that off. Good. Cindy. Beautiful little painting here, Cindy.
Oh, thank you.
Mainly, look at the L shape she's got in here. It's this big cloud over the barn, and then she's given us a nice, it's more or less a cloud study. A
Yes.
good clustering of shapes, big shape, little shape, little shape. And then she's using that linear perspective, you know, big cloud up in here, getting smaller and flatter as we go back. try, if you're going to do this one again,
Mhm.
try having the barn here, same position, but putting your big cloud over on this side, just flipping the sky,
Okay.
the horizontal flip. That'll balance this shape with that big cloud. I think that
Okay.
might be a better painting.
Okay.
The L, good strong L shape composition here. Watch the sharpness of that line. I want to see a sharp edge right in here, right where that center of interest might be.
Right.
So use your sharp edges to your advantage, like that one. That's a good one.
Okay.
And then introduce the coolness that you have in this shadow over in here in this area. Just use
Okay.
that contrast of cool, warm, and bring that coolness back up into the warmth.
Okay.
Good, strong C composition, nice, strong diagonals. This is makings for a really nice painting, real dynamic.
Thank you.
Good job on this one.
God did it. I just took the picture.
And it also helps as you're looking at these quick studies, squint, and then, just be mindful of where your eyes are going. You could, give us a little more highlight, just a little brushwork over here, just to keep us in focus in that area right in there.
Okay.
And again, good. What is this? This would be a diagonal, but then you're contrasting the horizontal, which is almost two different paintings in here.
Hmm.
So
Is that good or bad?
Yeah, good effort on this one.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Mary, let's go into good strong leading line in here, Mary. My eye is focusing in on the detail. Watch the hotness of this yellow, this bright green. If this is off in the distance, it should be cooler. I love how you have this grayer green back in here. I like that one. This one's a nice one too. Look at if you squint your eyes, this is beautiful painting here, Mary. Watch the dirty paint that's getting up in here. It's warmed up. I would cool that off even more. And then watch the size of this in comparison to this. If this is going back and up into the distance, this should be getting smaller. So maybe bring this lighter part right in here. Or bring this green part up a little more. But this size and this size are equal, and it needs to go back further. This was probably the stronger of the three. I think you did 4. Okay. This is the stronger one. Super strong diagonal. This is probably the color the water was yesterday. You mentioned. Watch the hardness of this. That horizon is going to be super hard visually, but artistically, if you paint it that hard, it's going to come forward. Just like this softness, just bring that, just blur that a little bit, and that'll go back. Love the coolness that you have in here in your greens and the hotness down in here. Watch this element so close to the edge. My eye is going down this way, especially because of this warmth, and then you cut us off. I would end it with a cool shape maybe just something cool to stop us from going off the page and bring that warm element maybe up in here.
So would more grass even coming up there just,
Even more, yeah, even more this cool grass.
Yep.
Yeah, just to cut it off, and then maybe find some of the sand. If it's a beach, just keep us in down here. If there's no beach up in here, don't worry about it, but just an element to stop us. But diagonal, counter that diagonal with, I would just bring a more diagonal tree just to counter that one diagonal into another. And then this tree works well going straighter. Good clustering of trees. Bigger shape up here, smaller shape works well. Look at the negative shapes that she's made in here. Good job. And then she's given us nice soft areas down in here. And if you pull back and squint, this is a really nice painting. Not much more needs to be done on this one. But you probably laid this in 10 minutes and then scratched in a few things here. But within 15 minutes, that painting is 95% done. And as a study. And then just a few elements to really fix it, and it's done. This one is a tree study. I love the curviness of this tree. I would watch the busy brushwork in here, simplify that shape, make it cooler. You may see little sparkles of sun on the green, but is that really necessary to keep me focused in up in here?
yeah, I was unsuccessful, I think, the tree is actually quite a bit below where I was standing.
Okay.
So I need to do something with, to bring it, to know that I'm up on the bluff.
Yeah. This is a really good study, though. I would make one of these shapes bigger, which you did slightly bigger on this one, but they're almost equal in weight. And then, yeah, good job. And then watch that hardness up in here. This is better back in here.
Thank you.
Good, good. These are Lynette's 4 paintings. I think we talked about those. Shannon, excellent job this week, Shannon. Look at her 4 paintings. I don't know if you have the 4 together. No, but let's go quickly through this one. I love these paintings. It's strong upward diagonals. This painting, would work better on a portrait orientation, but this one is a nice painting horizontally as well. But I think it'll be better in a portrait view. Because you've got big shapes, little shapes, and it works well. This is a good study. Good approach to doing these quick little paintings. Look at the U-shape composition in here. And then she's given us a nice warm spot for a center of interest. Use the sharpness of that brush as a tool to create an edge right in here, and then leave it. That would just add a dynamic contrast between light warm and cool dark. You can make that a better little study. this one is, I think, your strongest of the, I like them all. Look at the diagonal in here. The S curve, the soft, subtle C shape, strong diagonal, hard edge right in here. Beautiful work, Shannon. Good job. Look at the gray, soft edge to the horizon. This one is a, ultimately it's a U shape. But look at the hardness of the contrast right in there. You're just mesmerized by that graphic, simple graphic design of a U or a tunnel composition. And then good effort, Shannon.
Thanks, Steve.
I have nothing more to add on those things from Shannon. Howard, excellent work on these, Howard. These are not easy to do in watercolor. But good diagonal in here, giving us a nice center of interest. You broke that diagonal up with some shapes, keep us in the painting. Good strong diagonal up in here to counter off, you know, looking out, going off this way. Good weighted shape down in here. Whatever it is, looks like a little rabbit.
Yes.
Good effort. Well placed in the 1/3, 2/3. And I would, you know, proceed with that further as a final painting. These are your 4 here. This one's sideways, but nice portrait of a cat. Good. This is, if you're doing it like this in the detail, focus in on the eyes. You know, the eyes are, it's a balanced painting, but focus in on you know, those eyes and really bring those eyes out. And this one got a nice diagonal, like almost like a sidewards cross. Not as good of a composition as this. This isn't your balance beam or balance scales. This is your tunneling composition. So good composition studies on this one, Howard.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Robin, these are beautiful, Robin.
Wow.
Your paintings are coming along exquisitely.
Exquisitely, thank you.
I'm seeing some good painting here. Watch the hardness of the C shape in here. I would get a little more variety of the size of this shape, because the center of interest is going to be the statue on this one, and you want that to be and what I'm seeing is the consistency of this shape is really the strong point, and not the statue itself. So, you know, bring that out, and in and out, like you did here. This is good variety of shapes. Ultimately, this is a nice C shape, a very gentle C, followed by some strong diagonals, and then almost a good S shape in here as well.
I think I think it got a little lost up in the right where your cursor is.
Yeah, right in here.
Mm-hmm.
Focus in on this one it would help if you have a center focal point of interest. If this is a waterfall or something,
Yeah.
you know, choose one of these as your main center of interest. It looks like I want to focal with my eye right here, but I still want to go up in here and explore. This piece in here, down here, is probably your stronger one, and this one here. Good, strong leading line, diagonal, giving us some nice warmth to fall in on. I would put this red back in here and cool this off a little bit. But
Okay.
good, strong painting on this one. Good. This. Let me talk about this one for a second. This is that tunnel approach. You could bring some warmth, a little more warmth area into this center area for us to sit on. And then a little more detail, sharper edges back in here. But good S composition here. But I think the stronger one is this one, Robin.
Thanks, Steve. That's very generous.
Thank you. Susan, I love these paintings, Susan. These are her initial sketch, blown up. Here's the scene, and she's given us a. She's seeing a either an O or a tunnel composition in here, and then she's tried a couple of different temperature changes. This is a hot to cool, light to dark, either a U shape or an O. And here she's settled in on the O composition. Good effort on this one, Susan. I like this one the best. And again, use edges to your advantage. You've got a lot of soft edges in here. The hardness of this edge might be better off down in here. You're gonna get, this is beautifully treated branches up in here. And the contrast between the lightness and the darkness of these branches is really where my eye is going. Good job. Variety of shapes. Look at the big shape here, smaller shapes. Good job, Susan. Julie. Again, more watercolor. She's given us some reference photos. I'm going to talk about composition types, what she's seeing here. Look at the tunnel here, or radiating lines is another composition type. This one's more radiating lines. Nice hot spot. I would cool this area off down in here and just let this area shine. Cool off these buildings, even though they're farther away. They may have warmth, a little warmth down in here. Keep those back. I like how you put this person over here. That's the center of interest. What I would have done was, look at the reference photo in here. Would have been to flip this person and just do a 180 flip on her and then have her pointing in rather than moving her over here.
Okay.
But other than that, it seems more weighted over on this side with this building. You can put a little bit more pink on that building. And then if the person was flipped over here, it would have been a little more balanced painting. Okay. But good brush work down in here. Really nice study. Good, keeping this cool and gray. And then I think this is the bird sanctuary.
Yeah.
Good L-shaped composition. Nice, gentle leading lines. I like that one. And then this looks like University of Chicago. This is that tunnel composition or radiating lines, or O. I would bring in a little more detail in the center here, a little more warmth, and then just I love how you cooled it off and grayed it out down around the outside. Give us something a little bit more to look at right in here. Other than that, looks great. Sharper contrast. You know, just connect this shape up to this shape, and then you got it.
Okay.
Good job, Julie.
Thank you.
All right, Lori. Great effort this week, Lori. Love, spectacular work. These are her reference photos, and she did. Decided to do two paintings of each of the reference photos. This is probably the better of the four, mainly in that, again, the composition type is what I'm seeing is either a scattered pattern or this could be an L or a tunnel shape. Could be also radiating lines. I like the highlight that you gave onto this. Good overall, really nice painting on this one. This one, not so much in that it's as a quick study, I think it's fine, but it's not giving us enough highlights or it's a very muted scene versus this one. I think, and as well as this one.
Yeah, that was the first one, which I was trying to figure out how to do it. So
you improved. This one is better in that it's giving us more of an O composition with some good strong leading lines. Or this could also be a balanced scale if it was actually in the middle of the scene. So good effort on these. This one and the other one was really, really well done. Elizabeth, I love your sketches, Elizabeth. These are really good studies and excellent photo references. But let's look at each one of these briefly, and for composition types. Here's your L here. This also could be kind of an O as well. I like how you kept the warmth in here. This could even be even shadower in darker and more shadow. And then keeping that bright light. I love this one here in that it's a really nice pattern, scattered pattern. But the darkness, I think, would serve well down in here. It's not weighted enough. Bring this dark maybe down in here and give us more light that's up in there. This one is kind of a reverse C. So this one, these background buildings here might be too strong to for how far they are. That high contrast back in there is coming forward, and I'm not getting that atmospheric perspective of it. And this one I'm not really seeing other than a maybe a diagonal up in here. Let's look at some of the reference photos. Yeah, on this one, just treat that softer. Get a little more air in between those buildings and us. Yeah, this is a beautiful reference photo. A lot of big C shapes, a lot of S's back in here. But you could really, you know, emphasize in the sketch. You know, once you see the S or the O or the diagonal, you know, it's your choice to emphasize that. Here, I would have brought a little stronger diagonal to the center of interest in this one. Use the clouds to bring in. You could almost do a radiating lines kind of composition. So when you do a quick paint, you know, you get those radiating lines in here, and it really pops that one.
Great,
Love your
thanks.
sketches too.
Thank you. That was very useful. I'm going to have another go at this. So.
Deborah, you got a little sideways on this one, but the photo, you know, whenever you post something, if you can make sure the orientation is right. But we're going to use this as an example of looking at your arts sideways or upside down. And if it's working in the abstract, you know you've got a good composition. We're not looking at the detail. We're not looking at the object of what it is. If you're seeing the abstractness of the composition types, it's working. Here, abstractly, I'm seeing, you know, a big shape over here and a smaller shape here, followed by the, you know, interruption. So this could be a pattern, a scattered pattern composition. This is a tree study, of course, but graphically, it would be a balanced scale on a nice portrait view. This one is also scattered pattern. Give us a little more warmth in a certain center of interest. But right now, the window would be the center of interest, so I would add a little more warmth over there. And since these are watercolors, if you have a picket fence and it's not the center of interest, do a wet on moist technique so that the lines, when you're adding those darker lines, wet paint on moist paper, you're going to get real soft edges. It's going to simulate a picket fence without giving you the sharpness of edge that you want to maintain for your center of interest. So in watercolor, you know, the timing of that moist paper is really everything when you want to control those edges. Good job, Deborah. And composition-wise, this is a diagonal. You could also have a C shape in this one. I'll say even an E shape. So you got a big C with a line through. Temperature-wise on this one, you've got a nice warm spot in here, but you're giving us this flowering tree over here that's just pulling us away. you could create the warmth in this area, but then cool and give us a nice dark value to keep us focused in over on this side. This is good leading lines for the center of interest. These two are really your stars up in here. This one is exquisite. Not sure what this is. It could be a pier, a detail of a pier. It's reflecting in the water. Could be, you know, towers. It doesn't matter. It works as far as the composition. 1/3, 2/3, good strong verticals, nicely weighted. And then this one is, you know, the center of interest is going to be right in here. So give us a little bit more. And just throw, you know, either a darker, cool, pure ultramarine foam in the shadows, or really warm this up to really capture attention. But I love how you just gently interrupted the shapes. Good job, man. Cynthia, her beautiful work on these 4 pieces.
Thank you.
Again, center of interest. This could be either balanced or composition. Good job. Watch the contrast up in here. If it's too hard a contrast, it's taking away from the stars, which are these 2 chickens.
Okay.
On this one works better. You know, I'm focused in on what's looking like a butterfly.
Yeah.
But good strong diagonal. It's keeping us right in the center here. I would warm this up a little bit. Watch the warmth, the heat you got back here. I want some of that warmth in here. Or something even warmer. Bright orange would really work well right there. Just pay attention to where your eye is going. You know, your eye is really going up here into the contrast between that hot spot and the coolness of the greens. It's also going down in here, but this is almost like a nautilus or a big C shape. Good effort on this one.
Well, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that one, I was trying to give the birdhouse, the focus point being the birdhouse, and I don't know.
I think you succeeded. Yeah, even the barn door works well in keeping us in here. But I love this leading line coming in up the tree and around, and it's just a beautiful composition.
All right, thank you. I just gotta work on the birdhouse, I guess.
I think you just gave me another idea for the 18th composition type. Is I may have a spiral or a nautilus. I'm saying it's kind of a C shape, but it's a really nicely well designed shape.
Thank you.
Here, strong diagonals. You're thinking temperature, gray, and heat. That's good. Good. And then the center of interest is right in here. Watch when you see that purple and that cool shadows, watch the purity of that purple. I tend to get too pure myself and throwing that down.
Yeah, after my timer was on 15 minutes, and after I threw it down, I was like, oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah. No,
But-
it's not horrible. It's just.
I know, but my time was up.
Yeah. Good. Good. All right, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Sure. Sue, I'm loving these little sketches. Look at that big L shape right in here, coming in with a nice center of interest. If this is the center of interest or this shape here, yeah, it's a really good start. Watch the warmth back in here. You might want to cool that off a little bit. Good radiating lines on this one. Again, if this is the center of interest up in here, warm that up or cool it off, one of the two, if it's in shadow, which it is. So you got, this is cool. Just cool that off a little bit. And then, you know, decide on where your center of interest is going to be. I think this one is your better one. Let's talk about this one first. Nice L-shaped composition. I love the coolness of that shadow. You simply put that in there, big shapes, and then you gave us, I love this spot. Look at how this branch comes, smacks me right in the face with that hard contrast of light and dark. You could even warm that up even more, like bring some of this down in here. Good read on that. And then this one is balanced scale. Love the warmth and the coolness on this. Good job. Excellent. Andrea, these are her 4 sketches. Really good. I love this one. This is, just pay attention to where your eyes are going. I wanna live on this one because it's this way stronger with the 4 paintings. Big, bright, kind of a C composition here, center of interest. You can get some if the light's coming in from the left, get some light on these people, shadow side. Really good effort on this one. This is your kind of a tunnel composition. This one is probably looking up at a tree. Is my take on it, but it's overall abstract wise, it's kind of like a radiating lines or C. And then this one is L, like an L composition. I would finish off this one. This was a beautiful one. Or use this as a study and then do a much bigger one. Because you know, if your eyes are looking at this one all the time, there's something about that one that really needs to be developed. And here's her sketches. Great job. And then is this Mary's? Is this yours? Again?
This is mine, Linda.
Linda. Okay, Mary posted these. All right, Linda. Good effort on this one as far as I'm seeing an O composition. This could be a U also composition. This is hard to do as far as reversing that. It's that sunlight or sunset approach. And you got the warmth in the distance and the coolness in the foreground. I would warm that up even more. You got a nice cool red. It's giving you the warmth. And then the warmth of the tree. Make sure you get some good solid shapes on this tree.
Right.
Light between light and dark shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sue Whitney's painting previously, a couple previously.
Gorgeous.
She defined those shapes and in that pine tree.
Yes.
Look at her painting and just kind of replicate that.
Yeah.
This one. It's okay to have nicely treated soft shadow shapes defined. I would bring something else darker up in here because the painting is all about this.
Okay.
Okay. This is a nice, again, a nice overall sea composition. Look at where your eye is going. It's the contrast between the lights and darks. Your eye is trained to look at contrast and focusing on the contrast. Knowing that, you know, if this is the center of interest, then you've done it. But wow, I would warm this up, this light, and then maybe cool this off. It's looks like a limited palette.
Yeah.
But well done.
Thank you.
Good job. This one, and again, it looks like either radiating lines or it could be a sea composition. Good effort on this one. This one probably the weaker of the four.
Okay.
Watch when you get these, every tree leaning the same parallel lines, it's getting two repetitions. If it is like that, you know, just change it up a little bit.
Okay.
Don't have to copy it the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, to make this painting work, give yourself a, because this is, you know, a higher contrast right in here, give yourself a sharper edge. Use edges like you're using edges up in here, the hard edges, dark, light. Give yourself a harder edge in the green, lighter green up against the darker of the tree trunks.
Okay.
It'll force my eye down in here rather than up in here. My eye goes up here because it's looking at the contrast.
Right. That actually was my focal point, but it sounds
Down
like
here?
nowhere.
Up
Yeah.
here?
But that
Oh,
probably
okay.
for it though, right? That's not a good place for a focal point.
No. I mean, you did it right as far as leaving the harder edges up in here, up against the contrasted light areas. But I would target the 1/3, 2/3 areas of the painting. If it's up in here, I want to refocus the whole framing of the painting.
Okay.
Or crop the painting to be just this tree, and then that'll work.
I see.
But that's what these quick studies do. You know, it's just a really good effort in. It's hard as far as you're giving yourself. I think that's it. Yeah, it's hard in that you're giving yourself. Concentrated effort in such a short amount of time, but but the time not wasted, but invested into that quick painting is going to pay you huge dividends at the back end when the painting, when you do get to now do a full size painting or a larger study, you're using what's working into really creating a beautiful final piece. So, good job. Are there any questions? I think we have maybe another half an hour.
Steve, do you have any of your own paintings that you want to share with us?
Oh,
you've been doing?
That would be sweet.
Let's see. That painting right there on the easel is Bobby's. We went out, painted at a friend's house, and you posted the quick video of that start of the lily pad painting I did. actually teaching, his name is Joel, my friend, how to paint. He did his first oil painting. I didn't take a picture of the painting, his painting, but while I was painting, he was painting, and we did lily pads together, and it was a really good experience. And you saw the first 13 minutes, I think, of the painting, but it was a good effort on Joel's part.
I'd love to have seen the final painting at the end.
Oh, okay. I'll post that. I think it was on the back of the video, but I'll post it up in the Plein Air Painters of Chicago site.
Okay, great.
Steve, when looking at all these different types of compositions,
yes,
they're not. I would guess they're not equal in terms of their what really sets off a scene. Is there something that you look for in the scene? So kind of what comes first, or how are you determining when to use a different type of composition then?
Yes, that's a great question.
Stump the stars.
Yeah. When I go out to paint, and it's these 15-minute sketches or a 5-minute quick sketch that you do that you're giving yourself permission to be open and influenced. You're not going out there on a set mindset to paint a rose or a flower. As good of a painting as you can do of that rose or flower, it may be great. It may be well executed and painted well, but if it's not supported by the overall composition of that framed painting, it's not as strong as it could be. So I'll go out and look for certain scenes, and then it's my job as the artist to construct that scene on the canvas or on the paper. And if something is not working, I have to edit that accordingly. And my editing choices are typically going to be falling into one of these 17 or 18 composition types. And within that composition type, my next thought is going to be, okay, what's my center of interest? And I think we posted earlier this week the 11 decisions or elements that we can choose as centers of interest within our composition.
Those were in the email that we sent.
Oh, okay. So use that, print that out, have that next to you, and say, okay, if you've settled on a composition, now what's within that composition is going to be your center of interest. And usually put that into the 1/3, 2/3, but it doesn't have to follow that rule all the time. It could be up, if it's a strong enough composition, it could be up closer to the edge or smack dab in the middle. If you're doing a pyramid or an O on a square painting, try to break the rules, and as long as you know the rules, you can break them. But it helps to know this as a kind of a target when you're making those final composition type choices in your sketches. And then the quick paintings that we're doing is just you're spending 5, 10, 15 minutes max on an overall design sketch. And If it's not working, you know, go on to the next one, cut your losses. And but if it's definitely following one of these, you're just building on after success after success, and you know it's working. When you don't know it's working and you're kind of floundering and lost, you know, come back to this and say, okay, what's my composition? Where's my center of interest? Do I have, you know, am I following an 80-20 rule, or is it all 50-50 as far as lights and darks, temperature warms and cools? So I hope I answered your question, Mary.
Yeah, helpful. And
Good.
does anybody else have questions? You can type them in and I will ask Steve. Let us know what your questions are. I found I kind of went and pulled Edgar Payne's book as you were talking, just kind of looking at what these meant, and each one is, and it's his descriptions, thinking about them individually, because I was kind of looking at them as you were, like, for one thing, I'm very much in awe that you could identify each one as you're going along, but also then thinking about them, what they are. I found it very useful. This little book is real well worth it. But
yeah.
You know, there is just so much to think about as we do all this.
Yeah, it is.
I think what the exercises that you provided have been very helpful in getting it just a little bit more, something that becomes second nature. Here's a question. Steve, do you use a medium when you do your quick paint? Also, do you mix your colors first?
Okay, good question. I will use in my oil painting, I'll use a Galkid medium at a 50-50 ratio between Galkid and Gamsol. So what I'll do is I'll have my transparent paint up at the top, and I'm focusing in on temperature, warm and cools. Where are those warms and cools? And in the lily pad painting, you know, I saw all the warmth up at the top and then the coolness down at the bottom. So I immediately mixed in my paint that warm transparent yellow earth with a 50-50 mixture of Galkid and Gamsol, and I'll just kind of smear that paint on, bring it down into the coolness of the scene, and then I'll come in and wipe it out. And if it's working within that first 1 or 2 minutes, I know I can continue. If it's not working, I'll wipe that whole painting down and start fresh. Then, don't underestimate the value of a wipe down. It's so freeing. If it's, again, you have to make that choice. If it's not working, wipe it down.
When do you start adding color?
Immediately. I'll use the color underpainting as part of that design process of getting that the temperature, established. Getting my lights and darks established.
And the second part of Virginia's question was, do you mix your paint colors first?
I'll mix it right on the board, right on the panel. So no, I don't pre-mix it. I'll use and that's the beauty of those, using those transparent oil paints, is that, like watercolor, they'll mix really well on the panel. If you're not adding white, you're not getting mud, because everything is transparent.
So a couple more. I have actually 3 questions lined up here.
Yeah.
One just related to what you're saying. What surfaces do you paint on? Wipe down seems easier on some surfaces.
Yes. I'm using 3 surfaces right now. One is a Knickerbocker canvas by Fredericks. It's a portrait grade, fine canvas, acrylic primed canvas, super thin. Here, I'll kind of hold it up here, but it's a super fine linen or canvas, and I'll just mount it to a piece of, birch plywood.
And you mount it with what?
I'll use either Miracle Muck or Yes Glue and just roll that out and then trim it off. Either birch or Luan, or even the pressed board. That's the first panel. The second one is we've got the Belgium oil primed linen. So if you want to go, a step up and you're working on a commission, the oil primed linen is really nice to work on. The third strata I'll use substrate is the just a gesso primed board. So I'll take this Luan or birch, I'll PVA so it's nice and sealed, put a coat of PVA, and then I'll put some gesso on it, or put gesso right on the board. 3 coats is a good surface to paint on. And I'll either roll it on, brush it on, depending if I want a smooth surface or if I want to replicate it. Like a linen, I'll use a brayer to give myself kind of a texture, kind of like a linen texture to the gesso. So I'll go crisscross, and then I'll sand it in between the second and third coat, and then the final coat is a nice coat that kind of equalizes all the crisscross textures. So.
Thank you. And so there's another question. Based on the composition, are there any guidelines that the center of interest should or should not be someplace? For instance, something like if you do an O composition, the center of interest should be in the center.
Yeah, if you're doing an O composition, the center of interest should be somewhere within that O. Not necessarily smack dab in the middle of the O, but certainly within that O area. Depending on whatever else you have going on, if it's let's say a landscape, you got trees coming in, radiating lines, and the horizon is kind of 1/3, 2/3 within that O. You could have a figure off in the landscape somewhere, and that's going to be your center of interest within the O shape. Anything outside that O is going to be a supporting cast member to whatever is in that area. So good question. And again, the composition types really lend themselves to big areas, big shapes of dark surrounding areas of light, or big areas of light surrounding little areas of dark. So again, this is just guidelines, but it really helps. Guidelines from Edgar Payne, I'll say.
Somebody else is asking, do you sand your prepared surfaces? So
I'll sand the gesso board in between the second and third coats. So I'll put 2 rough coats on in a crisscross pattern, or brush it on, in a haphazard way. And then I'll give it a light coat of sanding, just hand sanded. Dust that off, and then give it a final coat. It takes down the bigger lumps, and then just gives you a nice surface to paint on. Now, if you're gonna, when I do paint on the surfaces of those, the gesso will absorb more of the oil paint than the oil primed linen. So your wipe down or wiping off areas is going to be more aggressive on those oil primed boards. than on the acrylic primed, either cotton or gessos.
All right. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that piece of it.
Yeah.
So how long do you allow your, actually, I want to ask the question related to what you just said. How long do you need to wait to paint on something after you gessoed it?
I like waiting at least 24 to 48 hours. More the better. Watercolor is a different story. You get as soon as it's dry, the gesso, which is a really fun surface to paint on. If you're doing watercolor, paint on the gesso board. You could wipe the watercolor off. Unlike if you're painting on paper, that watercolor will soak into the paper, and it's a lot harder to wipe off. Whereas if you're doing watercolor on gesso, you can wipe that pretty much to the white of the gesso. But I give yourself at least 2 days, a day or two, to before you paint on those. I'll do a stack of 12 to 24 boards. You know, if I have time, it takes a couple hours to paint those, and then let them sit. You know, if you have a big event coming up, you know, prep weeks ahead of time and let them, give yourself a good drying time.
So a couple other questions. How long do you allow your paintings to dry before varnishing them?
I use Gamvar mostly as a varnish, and Gamvar they say that you can, as long as it's dry to the touch, you can varnish it. It still allows air to permeate through the varnish to help dry the oil underneath. Because I like putting paint on thick, and that takes months to dry thoroughly. But Gamvar, you can varnish even if there's wet paint in the middle of that brush stroke. As long as that surface is dry, you could put, you know, a light coat of varnish on, and the whole painting will dry, you know, over time.
Another question. Did you have more?
Oh, and don't worry about taking the Gamvar off, because Gamsol will remove the Gamvar. Normally, if you want to, you know, just varnish a painting just to see and unify the whole, you know, shine of the painting, put a coat of Gamvar on. If you want to go back and repaint it, just take the Gamvar off and repaint it and let that dry, and then put another coat of Gamvar on. I've also used a cold wax medium to varnish my paintings, and that gives a really nice matte finish to the overall painting. So
So another question that we get is, can you use sapphire oil on a gesso primed so you have easier wipe off?
yes, and that's a technique that that would be normally I would oil in a dry painting. If I want to work on the painting after it's been dried, I'll put a whole coat of oil on the painting, whether it's saffron oil, safflower oil, walnut oil works well, poppy oil works well, linseed oil works well. And if you haven't done this, try it. Try it on these studies. Once they're dried, oil the painting in. It means just putting a nice coat of oil on the painting, and then paint on that painting, and you'd be amazed at how well that brush stroke of oil blends into the rest of the painting, just using that oil. It's a
Not a
beautiful,
heavy amount of oil, is it?
pardon me?
Not a heavy amount of oil. is it?
No, no, you just want a thin coat of oil on that, just to make the brush go on.
Mhm.
And then if you need to blend that one edge into another, it blends it really well because you've got that oil on it. And then
Mhm.
let that whole painting dry.
And going back to cold wax medium, do you melt it or just rub it on?
No.
How does that work?
Get a little can of it, a little jar. Blick has them, cold wax medium. But it's fun to just take a little on a rag, cotton rag, and just buff it into the painting, and you'll get this beautiful matte finish to the painting. You could actually mix the cold wax medium in with Gamvar and get a semi-gloss varnish to your scene. But Gamvar comes in the gloss, semi-gloss, and matte. I don't like particularly the semi-gloss Gamvar. I put it on a few of them and I took it off right away. It just makes it milky looking. But try the cold wax. It adds a really neat feature to the painting.
A question, if you oil in with linseed, can you then paint using Gelkid?
Yes, I'm going to say yes. I've never done that. And you bring up a really good way of painting, actually. I'm going to have to try it. You have a blank canvas here, but what if you oil the canvas first and then go in with the Gelkid and Gamsol washes? That would be a really neat effect. I'm going to have to try
What do you think the effect would be?
It would be like painting in wet on moist in watercolor. So if your paint is loose enough, you're going to get some really neat subtle washes of paint. The oil will dry a lot slower than the Gelkid Gamvar mixture. So you're going to have to watch that slowness of drying. But if you have time and you just want to put an underpainting in and let that dry for a couple of days, because the oil will take a while to dry. But that would be a really cool technique. I'm going to have to try that. Thank you, whoever wrote that.
Yeah, that was Lori. That was Lori Kennard. So another question, would you suggest using a medium with water-based oil paint or using that thin coat of vegetable oil before painting with water-based oil paint?
I've used water-based paints just from other artists asking me to help them with their paint. This was probably about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I think the water-based oil paints have changed. So they've got the feel of it to match the oil painting. I'm not sure if you mix oil in with the water, if that's going to really affect and hurt the painting ultimately. I'm not sure on that one. But I would avoid mixing the oil with the water. I'm sure they have mediums for water-based oil paint.
They do.
I haven't used. I would stick with that rather than the pure oil.
Yeah, I use Winsor and Newton water-based, and I use their matching water-based mediums. They do linseed oil. They've got thinner and those work.
It's all oil.
Yeah,
based.
It's all oil based, but it doesn't have the smell and stuff. So it's formulated for use with the water-based oils, and most of the brands that do this have their own set of mediums, and it
Yeah.
actually works better than using water, which can thin out the colors. So I've had
Oh,
pretty good success with the Winsor and Newton, for example. So
good. Yeah, I would stick with that. You don't mix the two mediums up.
Okay, that's great. I think actually we're kind of getting down to the end of time here. We're right at 10:59.
Good.
So thank you so much, Steve, for
Oh, yeah.
really it's the how much time you've put into thinking about this and then reviewing the paintings. And obviously you did do that to identify which composition style and all that. So thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you. Well, I enjoy it.
Next week we have Errol Jacobson going to be our guest artist, and we'll have one more week after that, and then we'll be outside.
Great. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're awesome.
Steve, I learned a lot.
Well, thank you. Good job, everyone.